Hi, Ryan.
Hello, Rachel.
How you doing?
How am I doing? I am doing spectacular. Oh, Rachel, my YYE, short for Yum Yum Energy, is off. It can't be measured right now. I am excited. We're getting closer towards the end of this third season of Babylon 5, so that sense of accomplishment, that sense of saying to people, you thought I wouldn't make it? Well, I did, is rising.
But I am a little sad because soon we will be beyond the Ivanova opener.
You had to bring me down. You had to bring me down, didn't you,
Well, do you know
Rachel?
what might bring you back up a little bit?
Is it why we're called Yum Yum? Is that the reason? That always brings me up. Please,
No,
Rachel.
I never want to do that. I want to bring up that we have a guest.
The guest can wait. They can wait in the corner over there, be ready to be stomped and beaten on by us.
Why don't we get them to tell us?
That's a great idea. We can put the responsibility on the guest, because
we
they obviously
have-
know everything about
We have
this.
Ben.
We have Ben from the Last Best Babylon 5 podcast. Ben, how are you doing?
I'm great. How are you two doing? Oh, you already just said that. I don't know. That's like a reflex response. I feel like if I just tell you how I'm doing without following up, how are you doing? I feel like I'm violating some sort of social code.
It's like that episode of Phineas and Ferb where Perry the platypus walks onto a train and there's Dr. Doofenshmirtz and he says, "Sit down, Perry." And then Perry's looking around and he's like, "Ah, Perry, you've been trapped by my most nefarious one yet, social conventions." And that's you. You felt the social convention be put upon you to ask how we're doing back, even though you know.
Do you feel the yum yum though, Ben?
Yeah, do you feel it in the room with you?
You know, I feel it. I got to rewatch a favorite. I did. I was just muted. But I did groan a little bit thinking about losing the Ivanova voiceover.
It's sad.
That is sad.
Mm-hmm.
So, Ben, tell everyone why this podcast is called YumYumPodcast.
All right. Well, so if you're familiar with the television program Star Trek Discovery, there's a beloved character in it who is so memorable. I'm not even going to say her name because everyone knows the Discovery's bridge crew intimately.
And she was from the Enterprise originally, too, and they never mention her in Strange New Worlds either. Strange. She was their engineer at one point, but hey, whatever, go on.
You know, far be it from me to reduce her to what her costume is, because, she is a very rich character. But she has that little eye thing, and at one... Oh, wait, no, yeah.
She breathes,
she
Ben.
has a breathing apparatus.
She's a Barzan.
Of course, she's a Barzan. Yeah.
Of course, you know this. We all know this. We all know it. Everyone knows this. People tune into the Babylon 5 discussion to hear about this.
But during one moment of exaltation, during, I believe, the first...
Second season.
Season.
Fighting Control.
I'm going to be honest, I didn't even watch this episode of Discovery. I watched the first couple episodes of each season and then stop.
Wow. Cad.
She remarks, "Yum yum."
And on a scale of 1 to 10, how horny were you when she says that?
Well, having only watched it out of context, 11.
There's no, dude.
There's no context within the episode.
Dude, I know context is for kings, but there's no fucking king that can rule that kingdom.
Universal laws for lackeys. Context is for kings.
We've had a little bit of a lull. We had Grade 17 is Missing and Walkabout, not the most banger episodes, but we're back on track with episode 20, and The Rock cried out, "No hiding place," which the DVD description describes it as such. An ecclesiastical group from Earth brings information and inspiration to Babylon 5. Meanwhile, Sheridan discovers the Shadow's attack plan, and Malari sets a trap for Reefer. Ooh, there's a lot in that description. First thing, ecclesiastical is a statement that was just dropped casually in there, and I appreciate that the DVD writers are stretching out their vocabulary. Still had a meanwhile in there.
Yes. I just want to point out that synopsis does not spoil the episode.
Yeah, unlike
no, it doesn't.
Some others,
like
isn't that right,
one
Benjamin?
I read when we did the podcast.
So
and Steve and Sean, when I talked to them, they're like, "Oh yeah, no, we would have figured it out." I was like, "I don't know."
I don't know.
But yeah, I read the Lurker's Guide synopsis when we were teasing it, and it's like Londo and Jakar come up with a secret scheme, and I like reading it. Like I'm just kind of like I just pulled it up, and I didn't even make that connection reading it. Like I was just like, oh, I guess that was the plot. Like there must be a scene where they talk. Oh no, it's a surprise. Oops.
It's a secret little surprise. So, Ben, you host a Babylon 5 podcast of your own in which you and two friends are going over B5, but that is not just the format. Sean and Steve, your fellow hosts who have joined us on this podcast before, they've never seen Babylon 5 before, but you've had that joy, and you've seen And a Rock Cried Out No Hiding Place before. Isn't that correct?
That's right. It's also, when I think of the show, like even before I did like this rewatch for the podcast, like if and where I hadn't seen it for some years, the climax of this episode was definitely like one of the moments of the show that has just always stuck with me. It's a very striking moment.
It is memorable. It is very different to how this show usually goes about things, but it is also a moment from this episode that has aged really well. We've seen a lot of these styles of kills and demises of characters be almost a given in television, especially in the age where Game of Thrones exists, or, you know, The Sopranos or Breaking Bad, where you have these really creative, fun sequences to go over things that we've seen a lot of before. But Rachel, what is your history, relationship, dynamic with And the Rock Cried Out No Hiding Place?
I remember being like, okay, watching this episode for the first time, and then it gets to that scene, and then I was just like, fuck yes.
Yeah, it's very much what I love about Babylon 5. It has a little bit of everything that you need. You have political plays, you have religious stuff, you have the ongoing romance, you have the JMS monologues, deep character moments, ongoing continuity, as well as pushing the themes of the show forward, as well as, of course, one of the best death sequences that you can ever get in this series. So you remember it on that level. But yeah, for me, this is one of my favorites of season 3 because it does provide all of those things that I like about the series, and does so very masterfully, very much of a person who understands their own series now at this point. There's no stress, there's no worry that they're going to drop the ball at any point. And especially after coming off a couple of weaker episodes, you get an instantaneous feel that this is going to be a good one. So you have that security, you have that sense of, oh, I'm in somebody's hands that knows what they want to do with these 45 minutes. And so for me, this has always been a spectacular episode, an absolute winner of a one for me. Ben, what about you? What was it like coming back to revisit it now? I mean, you've already reviewed it recently as well on your own show, but you stated like you remember the end, like we all kind of remember the culmination of this, but how is it for you now?
It's funny rewatching this one because there's so many little details that that I didn't quite recall going into it. I had a lot of fun, like just even rewatching this time, which I watched this for our podcast, like, I don't know, 3 weeks ago. But like this time, I was really entertained by like the Centauri politics stuff. Like I think it's kind of what you said, Ryan, is that this episode has a whole lot of everything of Babylon 5. Like it has every single part of the show in it in some way. Like it has like love it or hate it. It has JMS's kind of corny humor. It has like drama. It has like sneaky parts. It just has a whole lot of the various flavors of the show, to the point where I wonder now, kind of like you were just talking about how like like Walkabout and Grey 17 are not great episodes, and it makes me kind of wonder at this point, now that we're at like kind of a good like run of plot episodes, which will obviously continue into the 4th season in a little bit, like how much of JM, like how impatient is JMS himself when he writes those one-offs? That it's like I gotta write these because like this is there are 22 episodes and this is kind of a people might not see the whole show, and like he said, even like on like the like speaking online, he was like, in the first season will be like 20% plot, and in the second it's 40, 60, like
it goes up. And
yeah,
it goes up.
Wanda, has it occurred to you that half the other races are at war? We have to figure out what to do about them, about us, and you're worried about Jakar? We have a lot bigger concerns here.
Big concerns grow from small concerns. You plant them, water them with tears, fertilize them with unconcern. If you ignore them, they grow.
Let's talk about the religious leaders that visit Babylon 5. They help kick off a lot of things in this episode, and
especially that monk.
Yeah, the Buddhist monk, and I can't remember what the other guy was, but they're also just here, and then they disappear for the rest of the episode.
They're at the dinner.
Well,
yeah,
I'm sure I just can't contain myself. I know this is something you're probably going to bring up, but it is one of the most distracting guest star castings that they have. Eric Avari, they don't do anything with him. It drives me nuts every time I see this.
That's his career, though, isn't it? He's always in things, and it's a varying degree of if he's used or not. And also, what ethnicity will he play this time? I think I read he's played over 22 different cultures and ethnicities and religious backgrounds.
Yeah, I buy that.
Yeah.
I don't know anymore. I watched a little while ago the movie called The Beast, or The Beast of War, where he had to play, I think he was an Afghan. And I'm like, okay, sure, right on. You're also in this movie as this, and this movie as that. But you're right, he is a distracting guest star if you know your character actors, and he just says a couple of lines. Just hello.
Well, and he has such a distinctive voice. Like with his 3 lines, I'm like, wow, that guy's got some pipes, and then he just kind of sits there.
He just sits there. Hey, at least he got lines of dialogue. The others didn't.
No,
it was just him and the Reverend.
They were extras. They were just folks in costumes.
They were here to say lines. So, Rachel, what's happening? Why are there religious leaders coming to Babylon 5? What's the stuff happening?
They're smuggling information to Babylon 5. So they divided up the world into East, West, and the middle.
Yeah, and thank God that Eric Avari, he took the middle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Including Geneva.
And Australia.
And Australia. Us. We were there. We're in the middle.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think geography-wise. I guess we are.
I don't know how that works, but
I feel like there's a discrepancy in the amount of land covered for one of them. I feel like the other two had a very small amount to go over.
That's gonna happen. We live on a part of the globe that is much more water than continent.
But yeah, they're here to give us information about what's going on back home, that there is a resistance back on Earth fighting the good fight.
Mhm.
And
what propaganda they're trying to spread about B5.
it's good to touch in with that because it's been a little bit of time since
Yeah.
we've got a feeling on what Earth is getting up to and how they feel about Babylon 5, that there's a brewing
ISN
tension
does
there.
not give us the pulse on Earth.
They don't give us the real news. They give us that fake news.
Mhm.
And this is also a plot that's an excuse to have some more Brother Theo hijinks here. Ben, what do you think about this side of "And the Rock cried out, no hiding place"? Because we all want to go to the Reefer and Londo stuff, but this
And
also
we'll get there.
this
We'll
also
get there.
takes up a large portion of it. And without this stuff, the Reefer stuff wouldn't hit as well. What do you think of it?
No, absolutely. And I mean, I love the character of Brother Theo. It's kind of funny. Like, I don't know if this was a scheduling thing or just there wasn't time in the plot or whatever. Like, because this is he only gets 3 goes in the show proper, and so it's a little bit of a bummer to see him go. But I mean, I love this side of the plot. And I mean, obviously, the star of this group of this plot, the ecclesiastical plot, as the DVD menu or the DVD description would say, is Mel Winkler as William Dexter, who he's the leader and the rival, which to Theo, which is a lot of fun because they're obviously they express their Christian faith, but obviously
They're from
Theo
different
is a
groups.
Catholic, yeah. Their Christian faith in very, very different ways.
They have a
and
history
it's very-
together as well,
Yeah,
which I
and
like.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this when I watched this too. It's just very interesting. JMS is an avowed atheist, though somebody who went to Catholic school when he was a child, and
was also part of a Christian cult at one point.
that
Yeah,
is
that
also
too.
true. Though he pulls from that for a different plot.
You mean a great plot, right?
Yeah, a really good plot that I'm really looking forward to watching.
Ditto.
again.
Me too. Remember Byron. Hashtag remember Byron.
But in his autobiography, he's generally not like he doesn't have a lot of favorable experiences.
No.
Like obviously the Christian cult, but also like just in Catholic school, he deals with all sorts of nasty, nun teachers and so on and so forth. And so it's always very interesting to me in these episodes that a lot of these characters are like very like they're written. There's no what would be fashionable about 10 years after this
Yeah.
episode. There's none of the smug Dawkinism.
Yeah, there's no
They're
animosity
religious people
towards
that
them.
are also good people too.
Well, at least,
Like-
yeah.
From what we see, they're good people and religious,
Yeah, it
which
depends.
is not what you get a lot of the time. You get religious nut jobs in TV now more than anything.
Or you get vague religious overtones without any specificity to it, which is what
Yeah.
drives me insane. It's like, at least JMS has an opinion. From what I can gather, his opinion is he himself may not be a believer, he himself may not find solace within religion, but it would be foolish, especially from a historical and societal standpoint, to throw out the idea of religion. We would take that with us to the stars. There are people who do get things out of religion, who define themselves through their religious ideals, but also people who are self-aware enough to not just be oh, I'm the Reverend man, and I'm going to have to baptize you to God, Sheridan, because you don't believe in anything. No, it's people are people.
God will find you.
And I think that's very clear within this, because what you're getting at, Ben, is like, you have Theo, who's a bit of a stick in the mud, a bit of a prickly so-and-so, and he's a snob. And they even make comments about this in the Avonologue, the Avonova monologue at the beginning, where she talks about, like, I'm not a participant of that faith of Theo's, but I enjoy having him around. He brings something to the station, but he's so annoying.
Yes.
And that's what I really appreciate too is if you are going to be positive about religious figures, show all the sides. So Theo might be
he's not
this
a saint.
He's an annoying little prick, and I love him because
yes.
You know what he does feel like to me? He feels like a real Catholic that I've met in life, especially an older one. He feels so much like that, where I want to like them because they're spreading some good faith or good word, or they've got some wisdom to bestow, but they're just, they're prickly. They're of a certain era or a certain way, and that's what I appreciated as well about this side of the plot is, although it isn't going to shake the foundation of the Earth versus Babylon 5 war plot, like, I honestly don't remember if any of the stuff that they're given here will help aid them in the future. It is a nice little rest stop in the story to remind us also that one of the key themes of Babylon 5 is faith, is religion, is that, and how we can use that to help rebel against corruption, which is also something good to think about too, that even the religious people are looking at the fascism of Earth and saying, no.
It's a small thing, but it is a clear touchstone or signpost to the stuff that they end up doing on Earth.
Yeah.
Where the war ends up. So it's sort of a little bit of foreshadowing in that sense of, like, we're going to circle back to this. This isn't going away, but also re-establishing how people on Earth are being presented information about the people of B5, not just the station, but the people who are running it.
And Babylon 5 getting a deeper understanding of how Earth isn't just falling in line to this, as we were presented in a Point of No Return or Severed Dreams when Major Ryan came on. It's like, well, people are embracing martial law because it's this thing that it's cleaned up the streets and law, people don't know any better. But now we are being told, no, people do know better. There are more people who are, the fact that there is a resistance.
There is a resistance. The majority, but there is a resistance.
And again, there's just something very striking about the imagery of these people, this rabbi, this reverend, this Catholic monk, this Buddhist, and so on, that even they are saying no. And it makes me think back to season 1, where the diversity of Earth's faiths and Earth's cultures was this embraced thing. Sinclair showed it off as like, look at what we've got. And now Earth is something that is very much insular, and it doesn't want that diversity. It wants everything to be in one way and one way only, and everyone else can fuck off. And now we see these things
They don't have a crime problem there anymore.
We don't. No, it's solved.
We don't have homeless
We
people.
rewrote the dictionary, and now everything's fine.
Yeah, it really is like part of the speech sermon that is given towards the end of, like, it's beware of anybody who says that difference is dangerous.
Oh, no, my friends. The enemy is fear. The enemy is ignorance. The enemy is the one who tells you that you must hate that which is different, because in the end, that hate will turn on you, and that same hate will destroy you.
Theo, this is his last appearance, and I also am not too sure as to why. We know that this actor was originally Dral, and he had to drop out of that because he was too busy being on Broadway, which is very hilarious because the guy who replaced him as Dral also will never come back to Babylon 5 because he was too busy being on Broadway.
On Broadway, yeah.
And I don't know if that's why Theo doesn't come back, or perhaps JMS just didn't really have much else to do with this story element, because in all honesty, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, Rachel, does Theo exist so that we could have the Brother Edward episode? Because I honestly think we need Theo to exist so you could have that episode work the way it does. And I honestly, I don't know
I'm not
why.
that mad about it. I'm not that mad about it. I do think that is a large portion of it, is that he was around for that episode and they obviously liked the actor and they tried to give him some other things.
Well, I'm thinking that they constructed Theo and all of the monk stuff so they could eventually have that Brother Edward episode.
Yeah.
Like, introduce the monks, then have that episode, and then how many episodes has been since we've seen Theo?
Yeah.
It's been like, what, 15
The
episodes?
entire season.
Yeah, it's been the entire
essentially.
season since that Edward episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, because and those were early season episodes, so we haven't seen him since like they've declared independence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh wait, he's still here?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that guy. Like, oh, I do wish we got more Theo, because it does, like, I think that's an interesting theory that he was like that Theo set up so he could do brother Edward, but it does really feel like initially that they're being put there for the long haul, and then it's that they just didn't have the time for it. Because I think also, like, the whole concept of that order where they're trying to find the face of God and aliens, and then also then what we learn about, like, you know, Vorlons, like later on, like, it kind of feels like there's a little, like, there's at least some meat left on that bone, and it, you know, maybe it's scheduling, you know, maybe he just decided, like, no, actually, never mind. Or, like, it could be as simple as, like, you know, in the fourth season, it's just like, oh, I don't have time for this anymore.
There's no time for this. We've got to move on to other things. I would have loved to see how Brother Theo would have reacted finding out the truth and see how that tests his faith. And I would have actually liked to see JMS write a story about that and how Brother Theo's faith, although shaken, is not destroyed. And he finds a new solace within the religion, and that it shows on the ground level of believers that the knowledge of the Vorlons manipulating everyone doesn't wash away the validity that something like Catholicism can bring you, because that is a part of what you get from Babylon 5 a little bit, is that cynical streak, that atheist streak of, like, guys, come on. Do you ever think about how Delen's whole entire race is fucked up because Jeff Sinclair made up all of his bullshit so that they can get to where they are? Well, think about that for Earth, but the Vorlons did it for Catholicism or Judaism or this or that. And it's like, hi, guys? I'm like, that's cool, and I like that. And we see how this can be explored with people like Jakar and how he becomes a religious figure in real time for us. So this isn't closed, but I will say I'm the only one here who's watched Crusade, and I say this with authority. I am correct. Theo should have been one of the main characters in Crusade. I would have loved that. I think he would have been a perfect addition to that show. He would have been the bishop character from Firefly, basically, and I think he would have bounced off really well off of Edward Woodward's son, off of Galen, the techno mage. I would have loved an old Catholic bickering with a techno mage. That would have made the show so much more enjoyable than what we got.
Given the network's relationship with that show, I can't imagine in a million years they would be like, oh yeah, like this 65-year-old old man, like, They forced.
The
They're
wrestling
like,
fans
no,
wouldn't
we
like
need
that?
Lockley on the show.
Yeah, exactly. Lockley. You gotta get Gary Cole as your lead. Everyone loves Gary.
I mean,
we all do.
unironically, yes, I do love Gary.
I love Gary. I do. He's one of my favorite actors. I love that
he's
guy.
A fantastic. He could do comedy. He could do drama. He could do it all, and he's handsome.
And he's always had the same haircut.
Yeah,
he's never changed,
and it always worked. It only has improved as he's gotten gray. Like when I see
fox.
that haircut and it's jet black, I'm like, no. He's a gray fox.
He's a gray fox. Let's talk about some great acting here. The Sheridan story is he's burdened with responsibility. He can't figure out the shadows and how illogical they are, but logical at the same time. We get lots of back and forth cute scenes between Delenn and Sheridan, but it all really culminates in the wonderful conversation between Reverend Dexter and Sheridan when he's alone in his office, sitting with one or two lights on, and Reverend Dexter's just walking about. And Babylon 5 is a series that I think all of us have said at some point is very rewarding to its actors. Because I've seen this actor in a few things. He was well known for doing the voice of Aku Aku in the Crash Bandicoot games, and I remember he was also in an episode of Star Trek Voyager, and that's actually a really great place to start off. Star Trek Voyager, he's in an episode, it's the episode where they find Amelia Earhart, and he was one of the people who was also abducted by aliens.
Yeah.
And he gets basically nothing to do other than, I'm an old black farmer, and I got abducted by aliens, and that's his character. That's all he gets. That's all he gets.
Don't they also find a truck? Isn't that
Yeah, that's how it opens. They find a truck.
Truck,
there's a truck, and
yeah, I think it's his truck
really
too.
Excited about it.
Yeah. But he gets nothing to do in that episode, yet he probably gets the same amount of screen time.
He's the Eric Avari of that episode.
He is. And here, Babylon 5, he's just some guy. Like, he's just some character that JMS is like, it'd be really cool if just some random character could have this massive monologue and conversation with our lead and really change our hero's perspective on the world.
Because JMS really likes to play with how people can pass through your life and make a really big impact. Like, it's not like he's ever going to see this person again, but he will remember that moment and that conversation for a very long time. That changes the way that he works with Delenn, and we know that that is a fundamental shift that's required to make his presidency work.
I like what you said there too, because in real life I've had many moments like that where there's been a person that has come into my world for a brief moment and they've made a great impact on me. It's easy to go to the negative ones, but you do have those positive ones, and I like that. I like that a lot, where JMS is really great at capturing that with these one-off characters. And the one-off characters can honestly be some of your favorites in shows, especially shows of this era. That's why I get frustrated with, say, Star Trek Discovery. They have no good one-off characters. But there are other shows on currently, like Better Call Saul would have like an abundance of fun one-off characters.
A rich bench,
or like ones that are little and they just become bigger and bigger over time, like his fellow lawyer buddy at the courthouse, and that's a great character that was just supposed to be a one-off character. And
the twins in the first episode,
the twins, those are great ones to pull out as well. And this conversation, Rachel, do you kind of want to walk us through what's happening here?
It's so hard to not just say, play that scene.
It's like 4 minutes long.
I know,
Hit it.
but it's...
Hit it, Johnny. Give me copyright, boys. Waters, what are you after me, Warner Brothers? You can't catch me.
They laid off the person that would
get me. You're right.
That person no longer works
we got rid of the guy that would have got the yum-yums.
It's currently applying to Twitter, and unfortunately, I got bad news for him there.
I've watched your people since I came aboard. They all come to you with questions, problems, concerns. So, who do you go to? Who do you talk to?
Well, there isn't anybody. It's my responsibility. I can't put it on anyone else.
Sheridan is trying to do it all, and he doesn't feel like he can really rely on anybody else because, he's the one in charge of Ivanova and Garibaldi, so they have to come to him with problems.
And Franklin's on walkabout, so he can't do it to him either.
And the dude just understands that.
He's a reverend. Maybe he knows what walkabout is. I'm told that America
walkabout several times in this episode, and nobody asks any questions.
Because all Americans know the complexities of walkabout, especially, as we discovered last time, especially JMS. He really knows the cultural background and context. And it's not like he pulled it out of his ass and made up his own bullshit and whacked another name on it. That sounds culturally real.
So he gets pulled up on his bullshit by the dear Reverend, who gives us a lovely, sweet anecdote about when he was dating his wife and she would come over and help him clean his apartment, even though hers was a gosh darn mess too, because she liked the feeling of helping him. It wasn't about the cleaning, it was about being there for him, being supportive, all of those lovely things.
It's about the company.
Yes.
Even though sometimes the mess would be too much for both of them, it was great to have somebody there to help you, which I really, really globbed onto on this watch, because I always remember this monologue, or this conversation. It's really great. I liked how Sheridan at points during it was very defiant and very aggravated, and he's like, I don't like this.
Get out.
The Reverend is touching some sore points for Sheridan, but I really liked that sentiment of, hey, even though sometimes that problem, the mess, for you it's going to be this war, may be too much for even the both of you, it's better to do it with somebody else than just by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And
then he says that, when he is sitting there with Dylan and they've gone over it, and we cut in clearly at the end of this very long conversation that they've been having, and she's like, "There's just nothing to it."
Oh yeah, but
there is no logic. I'm sorry, John.
You and I, Rachel, we love the slow burn, chaste romance of their relationship, but this is such a moment of catharsis where somebody says out loud, dude, she loves you. Just know that, man. Just do something about this. Don't just stand around and be all coy and oblivious to this.
We had a random person do that for me.
Yeah, so I really again, that was a highlight of the moment too. And Ben, I was curious of how you're feeling about the Delenn and John romance. How has it been for you on this watch?
It's so funny because I think I've seen a lot of people put their romance down and also say that they don't buy they don't see any chemistry between Mira Furlan and Bruce Boxleitner. And I've really enjoyed it this time, and I like how they act together. I think they're really fun together. And I think also part of it, what makes it so entertaining to me and fun for me this time, is that on my watch this time, I really enjoyed Sinclair's relationship with Catherine, which is 1,000,000,000% different. It is extremely different. This is one of the major differences between these two leads. And so that you replace, Sinclair, who, sleeps with Catherine that episode, with with Sheridan.
He's a Boy Scout.
He's a total Boy Scout, and as it comes up, and it's obviously part of his introduction. He is a widower, and then his absolute worst fear happens in a couple of. It's finally I kissed someone else.
Yep, Z minus 14 days.
Yeah, Z minus 14 days. Right after he's kissed, he finally kisses someone else, and exactly the reason why he didn't do it happens.
Yep.
JMS really likes to kick you in the
funny.
He likes to kick you in the gut, JMS, because Rachel, you were up the wall by the fact that he's already kissed Delenn, but it's a version of her from the future where they've kissed many times. So in a way, it wasn't special, but also it was, because it's the first time you see these two characters kiss on the show.
Yep.
And then this one, they kiss. And it's the, glory shot kiss where, hey, honey, nothing turns me on more than military-grade equipment, baby. All you needed was to fire off some nukes and I would have come in my pants.
He's just
he's such a fucking military dweeb.
Fucking dog.
And they're kissing.
So corny. And of course he could only be moved to
by war.
To kiss her by a religious figure giving him permission. Obviously, this is, but that's another thing, on this watch, is realizing just how corny this guy is, and how easy it is to inspire him. And
Bruce Boxleitner is so good at making him not so corny that you roll your eyes constantly and get fuming about the fact that they're elongating this love. And I also want to shout out that they have been continuously coming to the romance without having to inject any bullshit drama that will make it so they don't get together. Again, watching Farscape right now, and that's the main relationship in that show. Oh my god, they're gonna get together. Oh wait, no, now there's a clone of John. Ooh, and there's all this crazy hijinks, while here it's just, darling, I'm just so damn tired from trying to figure out how to win a war. And she's like, oh, you're crotchety, John. And you're like, oh, these two will get together and kiss by the end of the episode. And they do. I mean, you have to also make it
a long time to wait, though.
It's like a season. It's about just over a season of waiting, and you have to do it so you don't reduce the characters down to just being, he's the guy and she's the girl. You have to make sure that they're both their own characters with their own autonomy and their own drives outside of, we have to kiss at some point. Because I know we shit on Star Trek Discovery all the time, but that's what Ash Tyler was. He's just a guy that you have to wait for the kiss to happen, and then, he's actually evil.
Very pretty.
He's
very good looking.
So
you don't need to build up tension when it's just wow, he's so good looking.
Yeah.
Especially when he's harassing Matt Berry in a series of increasingly wild outfits.
I was waiting for you to do it. I was waiting for you to make the Toast of London reference, and there it is.
Yeah, I know.
That's going to be on his grave, isn't it? He's going to be known just for being Clem forever. It's just going to be his fate as an actor. And you know what? That's fine. That's fine. It's all right. Accept it into your heart.
I recently met. There was a woman from the UK visiting. We were at a bar, and for some reason or not, whatever the playlist at the bar was, "Take My Hand," the Matt Berry song comes on, and she just lights up, and she's just like, I love Matt Berry so much. And then when I turned to her and I'm like, oh yeah, no, I adore Matt Berry. Then all of a sudden we were talking for I was like, okay, now we're friends.
I was going to say, now Ben got engaged to a random British person, which is the dream, honestly.
Yeah, finally I can move to a place with also a functional government.
Yeah, with a king. You can move to a place with a king.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they got that new monarch smell.
Finally, a king. Now I'm comfortable moving there.
I would remind His Excellency that it was I, not Londo, who organized the attack on the Narn homeworld. I, not Molari, who removed Prime Minister Malachi and enabled Cartagia to take the throne. I...
Yes. And the Emperor appreciates your part in his ascension. But this division between two of our oldest noble houses serves no one.
One of the big takeaways I had on this watching of it was how the story has to be palatable to a first-time viewer, and that it made me think back about how Lord Reefer 80% of the time is a character that is there to dispense exposition. And because the character is so self-serving and manipulative and greasy and just this oozing pustule of a soul, the way that he dispenses exposition also gives us character, because you have this moment later in the story where he's talking to Lord Verini and he's just telling him what's been happening in the show. Like, I'm the one responsible for this and this and this, and Londo isn't, and Londo did this and this and this. And that is so that we can check in with the audience. Hey guys, this is who Lord Reefer is. This is going to be important for the third act of this episode as well.
We need to make sure that you know this.
But you almost don't even notice or care about it, because him speaking like that is true to the character.
It feels right.
He's this wormy guy trying to make his case for why he's so important. And that is the thrust of the episode, is Londo and Reefer have to squash this rivalry. Somebody has to come out on top. And so they have to make their case, and Reefer's doing it in the way that he knows how, which is a little whisper over here, a little pleading over here, a little speaking about my virtues and how important I am to the narrative, everybody. He's very much a character that thinks, oh, I'm the lead. He doesn't think he's a hero. I like that. He plays it very much like, no, I'm the lead character of the narrative. Everyone should appreciate that about me, Lord Reefer.
He's got such a wonderful evil smile. Like, he has just this evil, like, especially like later on in the episode when he thinks he's won and he's just like, now I have everything. Like, he's just got such a nasty piece of work smile that is just a delight. Like, it's just so much fun to watch him in this episode. And always, but in this episode especially.
Oh, and always. Rachel, we have been big Reefer fans on this rewatch. So talk to me a bit about why that has been the case for you, and how he managed to still capture that or not on this episode. Because this is also, sorry guys, spoilers, it's his last episode. He doesn't make it out of this one. I'm so sorry to make it.
Oh no.
Bits of it may have made it somewhere, but he didn't make it as a whole.
Some of him made it onto that data crystal.
Yeah. Talking about nice little details, I like that the data crystal's covered in blood. That's a detail I very much appreciate. Thank you.
The minister takes a bit in his handkerchief that he also used to, like, dust off the chair.
Oh yeah.
In the room.
Yeah, there's lots of little details, lots of little specific things happening here.
I love how Reefer is this carnival mirror of Londo. And it's just like how far Reefer will be willing to go and how far Londo goes. Just having those two things in mind at the same time is such a joy.
Oh, he makes you, there's moments within the narrative of the 2 seasons he's in where he almost makes me question if he's more respectable than Londo, because he actually knows what he is. Like, he embraces being this nationalistic, egotist, power-hungry asshole, while Londo's Mr. Oh no, I can't.
For my people.
For my people. He's always obfuscating. He's always hiding behind something. He's always trying to redeem his soul when he's damned. There's no point in trying, but also there should be a point.
There is a point in trying.
There is a
He
point.
seeks out those opportunities. He sought out that prophecy.
But in an episode like this, where he tries to have it both ways, Londo. He tries to be Mr. I have no soul, I will screw over Veer because he's unimportant, but really, I had a good plan underneath it all that was going to help stabilize our people. And yes, if I get more power, that's fine too. Like, he's very self-serving in a different way to Lord Reefer. Lord Reefer is upfront about what a garbage person he is, and in a way, I kind of respect the hustle that he has going on. Like, I like the fact that he is just Mr. Yeah, I'm garbage, but I'm going to come out on top.
I like a villain that knows he's a villain. There are a lot of really wonderful villains that know they're a villain. And Rachel, I absolutely agree. Like, he's like Londo without the tiny, very quiet angel, like Londo without like a Veer around or something, like someone to make him feel guilty.
He is a man that came into the series as just another Centauri guy to tell Londo information. That's what his role was. He was just, hello, Londo. The way of our society is crap. Hopefully you can fix it. And then he just kept coming back in. And just kept coming back in, and he had more and more power, and he became more and more present as a character, to the point in which he's one of the most vile villains we have in the show. Like, I feel a lot more negative feelings openly about Lord Reefer than I have Mr. Morden until recent times, where you have episodes like The Long Twilight Struggle, where it's Reefer who's standing there saying, hey, Londo, commit genocide. Do it.
Come
do it.
on.
And what does Londo do? He bends. He commits genocide. And you have Reefer there going, good job. Good man. Bravo. Come have a look at the
great seat.
Have a look at the seats up front. Have a look at that planet get bombed back into the Stone Age. And I truly do adore how in this episode he's indignant throughout all of this, because anytime he hears Londo be referenced or he sees Londo, he looks so upset. Just so upset.
He's so pissed off to be dragged to Babylon 5 again.
They once asked us to recognize them, you know. They seem to think that if our government recognized Babylon 5, they would have an easier time establishing their independence. Not much to be independent about. Is there, Lord Reefer?
No, Excellency.
You have that amazing exchange between him and Lord Reefer about how shit Babylon 5 is. It's like, I'm so sorry, this is the best they could come up with. And then the Verini is all, they came to us when they seceded from Earth. They came to us for their independence, and they wanted to be recognized. And he just looks at this shitty quarters he's in and just makes a jab about, seceded from what? Yeah, so you can really see how magnificent it is. And he walks over to the couch and he dusts it off with his handkerchief. Yeah. It's just...
Oh, I love it. I love everything about that. I love that whole, how it's staged, everything about it. It's just fun.
You give actors little pieces of business, and it really adds to the viewer's enjoyment, because on the page you could make this very, very stiff. You can make it just two characters telling us what the plot is. They can look at the audience and say, okay, audience, this is what the plot of the episode is going to be. This can just be an exposition scene, but you let those two actors do their little business where Reefer is postulating, he's kind of curling his fingers while the guy's talking. The guy grabs a handkerchief and dusts off the chair. It's very small, but those little details build up, and they build up.
Not done in a way where it's like, and now I take my moment and I activate my character working skills and present this detail. It's not like that.
I agree.
Which is a difficult thing to manage. That balance of having a character do those little quirks and those little actions, and it not feeling like And now is my time to shine.
I was curious to know from you, Ben. Lord Reefer is a character that we've all enjoyed. You talked about him with us last time you were on the podcast. He's in 6 episodes.
Yeah.
In the entire show. And I was curious to know what you think about, a character with very minimal screen time and how they can still be memorable and effective. And how does Reefer fall into that for you? Because there are so many people like this in Babylon 5. Naroon's in less episodes than Reefer. He's in 5. Right. And you get Verini later on, the other Verini, and he's only in like a handful of episodes. And then obviously we're Star Trek fans. You're a fan of Sliders, Farscape. There's lots of those people who will make a couple of appearances, maybe less than a handful, and they are memorable. We like them. They make an impact on the show that's a positive. So I was curious for you, how do you think that works, and how does it apply to someone like Lord Reefer, a guy that was just here to be someone else to tell Londo, the old ways are gone, Londo. Tell us, what do you think?
Well, it's also interesting because I remember, I noticed that it's only 6, which it's a good sign for his performance. If I'm like, he's probably in like a dozen episodes. And then I look up and it's only 6. And then there's like, at least there's 1, but maybe even 2 of those appearances, he's just on the TV. Like he's just on he's just making a call. And I mean, what makes him have such a sticking, like, why is he so memorable? Well, one is because he gets just a absolutely spectacular death sequence. Which I'm sure we'll have plenty of things to say about. But I think it's also that I think I read that William Forward kind of based his performance on Peter Jerzik's. Is that right?
I would say so. He's the only other Centauri actor to ever do the accent or do an accent. Although we do have Lord Drigo in this episode doing a little Italian accent, which I adored, and I thank that actor so much for putting in the effort. And I noted it down in my notes. It's right there, and I underlined it, and I wrote "thank you" next to it.
Just a lot of really interesting accents going on with the Centauri, but whatever region of Centauri Prime Reef is from, he grew up in the same block as Londo, I guess.
Transylvania, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They both grew up in the Dracula block. And I think that's just kind of because like Londo is like, it's such a fun role. It's a big emotions role, and then if you base your performance on that performance, and then it's just like you're like that, except you're a real fucking piece of shit. And like Londo is also culpable in war crimes, so you're worse. You're monstrous. You have nothing. Like,
you brag about your war crimes.
He's happy.
Yeah,
that's a part of that exposition dump of like, I did it. It was me, which is funny because later on he tries to deny his involvement because he's spineless.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's also when he first shows up in the second season, I remember like the first time I watched it being like, oh no, like he's pushing Londo down a dark path.
That Reefer, I can imagine Ben.
Reefer.
He's sitting there twirling his hair going, it's such a bad influence on Londo, that guy. I don't trust that guy.
Yeah, like it's like, oh no, like you hate him even more because he's helping enable Londo down the horrible path that will lead him to have a little
thing on his
puppet
neck
that lives on his shoulder.
He's an overt presence, where Morden, he's Mr. Oh, I'll let you do it on your own. You decide what you do with the power I give you. It's really all in your hands.
Is the actual one behind.
You're the
behind things, including a certain somebody's death.
Yeah, including Adira's death. But Reefer, he's right in Londo's face telling him to do bad things. And so we, the audience, notice that a lot because you have two devils for Londo. You have the one who's the classic Mr. Morden, where he's like, I'll make a deal, no strings attached, except we have to give us something in return. And then you have Reefer, who's, I'm going to use you so I can get more powerful. And you know that, and I know that, but we're just going to pretend that that's not real, okay? Now commit a war crime so that I can get more powerful, okay? Can you do that? You'll do that? Good. One of the things I think, and Rachel, we've talked about this in the past, so I think you can expand upon this. One of the reasons Lord Reefer, a character that exists in 6 episodes, can be something that we remember, something that we care about, someone that we elate in their death even, is because he is well defined. You know what he is, you know what he serves as a story, and you know what he is in relationship to our main character, Londo Mollari.
Yeah.
And how often do we see that be a failure? I mean...
it is super easy to go, oh, you know what, we'll make a foil for this character. And then it's just like, well, why do I need 2 of these? But because there is such distinct differences between Reefer and Mollari, you get a deeper exploration of both characters. Because a lot of the times with a foil, you'll just get a deeper understanding of the character that you started with. But you deeply understand both Londo and Reefer by the end of this episode.
I think about this because of Reefer. Babylon 5 has villains, like your Mr. Morden and your Emperor Cartagia and the Druck later on, and Reefer.
Has its evil people
yes.
that are also villains.
And you know what this really shows off? Stuff like modern Star Trek or the MCU really fail at villains. They have a real villain problem.
It's and very there's always easy to say, oh, there's a weak villain in this story.
And there's always that defense of, no, guys, you see, they just don't have enough time. Or, yeah, they could have made that more nuanced of a villain. I'm going to challenge that. Babylon 5, all these villains I've just mentioned, not very deep, not very nuanced. But you know what they do? They serve the function really well. You get it. You go, Reefer, he's not a deep character.
You get
He's not really that deep of a character. He's just a mustache-twirling bad guy. But he serves the function we need him to do, and he does it in a way... You know his motivations. You know what he
What's
is.
underneath the hood.
And so we don't need him to have any more. This is enough. This is good enough. This is something where I go, that's enough. Well, yes, sometimes you need a villain that maybe has more screen time. You know, I'll go away from picking on Star Trek Discovery or Star Trek Picard, but Farscape, great example. Crace, he sucks. And I part of me goes, oh, it's because he doesn't have enough time. No, it's because I don't know who he is as a villain. I don't know what he really is. I know why he's angry because they tell me, but I don't really understand it. Well, here we are with Reefer, 6 episodes across 2 seasons. Got it. Know who you are, and I really can't wait for you to die.
Yeah.
And
you have clarity.
You have clarity, and that's very important for these minor recurring characters. Again, Farscape, another example is Scorpius. He first comes in, know who he is. I know, and I like him. I like, who's this weird guy? Oh, I like this freak. I know who he is, and I even know who his right-hand man is. I know that character, and he's barely had lines of dialogue, and I know who he is, and I know what he wants. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a piece of shit, and I love him too. He's like my Reefer of Babylon 5. I just love his little turddom. And
Breck is such a little
weasel,
such a worm. Oh.
I love him. He's my boy.
He's got only 5 lines. He just is just this guy that stands there.
I love Braga. He's such a little turd. My favorite characters in shows are the ones that, like, the show thinks sucks, and I love. Like, him and Jewel are my favorite characters. Because
yeah. When you messaged me, you've loved Jewel, I was just like, that's wild to me. That's so funny.
Bullfrau! Peacekeepers have always been a manifest military contagion that has raped and pillaged. They never died for any nurses. That's just a silly little story to help naive children sleep at night.
You know what would help me sleep better at night?
But Londo's a piece of shit in this.
Mm-hmm.
But he has to be a piece of shit.
Yes.
Throughout this, he's putting on being a piece of shit to then reveal. But that's his thing. He's like, no, Via, I'm not actually a piece of shit. I had to pretend to be a piece of shit
because I'm being a piece of shit in this different way.
Because I need things to happen the way they need to happen, and you're too small and insignificant to be let in on things, and you're actually also valuable.
You're valuable, but you're not worth killing.
You're valuable, but only to an extent.
It's not even worth murdering you.
And
you're not a pawn. You're what's the second least valuable chess piece?
Yeah, you're that. You're what we call a rube. And I played you.
Yeah, we have a rube on the chessboard.
Put a rube on the chessboard. And let's draw a little smiley face on it and call it a Via. But I like the relationship that Londo and Via have in this show, because we look at him, Via, as this angel on his shoulder, but we are shown
We're
here
heartbroken when Londo berates him and threatens Via.
Yeah, because it's... Londo's done so many terrible things, but he's always seen the value
always stands by Londo.
He stands by. Yeah, they see the value of each other, even if Londo begrudgingly doesn't want to. And this is an episode where we aren't let in on what Londo's up to. So he's particularly mean-spirited in this one. And I like the restraint on JMS's part in general, where he will let you just wallow in the fact that this character is a bad person.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I don't need to try and win you over to them being a little sweetheart. I don't need a little comedy beat at the end to remind you that Londo's actually a funny, whimsical character.
No redemption.
You didn't like how he treated Via? Yeah, I don't either. Like, that's how the show is. Like, oh, you didn't like that? No, I didn't like that either. You know who didn't either? Via. Via didn't like that. And this is the time where Via's, loyalty to Londo is really challenged. Like, he is upset by Londo. He
doesn't want to keep walking with Londo.
Yeah. How do you feel about all of this, Ben? Because we oftentimes talk about Londo. He's one of the most pivotal characters in the show, and it's mainly because you have this series making you like a character that is detestable. And this is an episode where it's just full-on evil Game of Thrones, House of Cards, I, Claudius Londo, where he's throwing away all of the likable qualities we have for him and engaging in all of the villainous traits we've seen from him. How do you feel about it?
I think the show sets you up to feel kind of conflicted about it, because ultimately... it's done to do to help. I mean, to do something. Is it done to help Jakar? No, it's done to help Londo. It furthers his motivations. It's just that, or his objectives. It's just that in this case, his objectives are served by giving Jakar something he wants. But the show sets you up to feel a little conflicted about this. And what I thought about about it when I just for this specific watch, I was really thinking about how miserable it is for Veer to know that Jakar knows that he can be bought. Because Jakar when Jakar comes to the door and hears what Veer has to say, he knows what's up. And Veer has been trying to do the right thing this entire show.
And it's used against him here. It is the reason for why Veer has to do this, because you tried to do the right thing, which is actually the wrong thing for Centauri. And I will use that against you, Veer. I will destroy you because you've done morally good things, and I'm going to show you the error of your ways. And it's like, oh.
He's punished for it.
He's punished for it in this episode, which is
exactly.
Continuing
and he's used.
punishment.
He's used for it, and then also like the people like Veer has tried to help the Narn in the in the limited ways that he can, and then to have it that that he's used as a pawn in this. And in a way where G'Kar, because G'Kar's, his conclusion out of this is that I can't trust Veer. Right? It's like the lesson that G'Kar gets is that Veer can be bent and broken.
He's still the messenger boy. Nothing's changed.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's just like, that has to be to Veer just remarkable, just unbelievably feel bad, even if it was because in Lando's mind it's like, well, I'm not really hurting Veer because in the end it's all for good.
Yeah, and he'll bounce back. He always does. He'll come back to me like the little lapdog he is, because that's his role. That's how I see him. Even though I also see him as a part of myself.
I pulled the leash when I found out about him mucking around on Mbryo. The leash got pulled back. He got pulled back to the attaché position. And now he's being brought in even more to heal with the way that he's played in this episode.
What is hilarious is Londo does all of this in this episode. He does all of this stuff. Not because of his securing of his place or stabilizing the rift in the Centauri court, or he doesn't even care about any of that. Those are things that he pays lip service to.
You killed my girlfriend.
He does it out of just simple revenge. That's it. You killed Lady Adira, which is ironic because we know that he didn't. So Reefer gets killed for something he didn't even do. Out of all the things he deserves to get murdered for,
the one thing that he didn't really bother to dismiss is like, oh no, I didn't do that.
Well, it was too late by that point. They've poisoned. So, but it is just that thing of Londo is that character where you feel even more conflicted because he wears all of these masks, as he says throughout the show. It's all about appearances, it's all about lies and deception and putting on the mask. And throughout this one, he's putting on that villainous mask, but also one that says, I'm doing this for a higher purpose, Veer. I had to do it, but really, it's because I believe, Lord Reefer, you killed Adira, and I'm going to have to kill you for that. I've waited too long.
I want you dead.
It needs to be sorted. And that's really the root cause of this entire episode is just vengeance. Just bloody vengeance. And you are conflicted again because we know that Lord Reefer didn't do it. So this is going to be a dangling thread where you, the audience, are wondering, when's Londo going to find out the truth? Because in this, he's being played. This is a part of Morden playing him. He makes Londo believe one thing, and Londo is an emotionally charged character who will make a cascade of chaos in his wake wherever he goes.
Yeah, it's a very different...
It's pretty funny, because you know that Reefa didn't kill Adira, but you're watching it and you're kind of satisfied because it's like, yeah, that guy sucks anyway.
He deserves to die.
Nan killed him for the reasons that he deserved to be killed for.
Yeah.
They don't care about Adira, but that is why he was killed, because he's perceived to have been the one to have poisoned her. It's just adding to the layers of nuance and frustration with Londo Mollari as a character. He's a character that whenever we do our discussions, whenever we review, and I'm sure it can be similar for you, Ben, especially more difficult because you have to hold your tongue because of your hosts, where each episode where we have Londo, it makes you examine how he, as a writer, JMS, can do this. Like, how can he make Londo work? Like, how can this be someone that we keep wanting to follow and even see redeem at points and we're happy for him, but then he's done so many heinous acts. He's said so many horrible things, and yet
how can you ever forgive him?
You feel an overwhelming, like, attachment and sadness for this guy. It's a large juggling act, and in this watching of it, I feel for him, but at the same time, I just want to grab him so much. I just want to grab him by the shoulders and shake him vigorously, saying, "Wake the fuck up, Londo, you dumbass."
Yeah. No, it's really sad. And it's there from from the pilot, from the gathering. Like, he's a guy that he is desperately grasping for a glorious past that might not have ever really existed. But he's and those people are always trouble.
You have taken from me that which I loved, Rifa. You also took the life of Prime Minister Malachi, a good and dear friend. You have inconvenienced me and threatened my position in the royal court and weakened our defenses by your constant warfare.
Rifa is one of the best deaths in the show because it's just different. We cut from...
Because it's so much fun,
Because it's so much fun, Jan. This is one where it feels very different from how Babylon 5 presents things, but it's really fun to watch, and it's grounded in filmmaking terms that pay off. I believe I read that the inspiration for this scene was from Cabaret, which JMS is a big fan of Cabaret, hence we had Michael York in the show earlier this season. And Cabaret was one of the things on his mind when he was writing this sequence where we have this jaunty German music where everything's happy-go-lucky, cutting to extreme violence or like cutting to menacing imagery, and just the contrast of those two things. And that's played here.
In Cabaret, and I might be getting the exact details, like in the film version of it, there's like this moment of celebration, like towards the beginning of the film, where we see like the doorman turn around and push out like a couple Nazis, and then later on you see this doorman get, like, while he's walking home from work or something, get confronted by those same Nazis, and they beat the shit out of him, and it cuts back and forth, and this is probably what the scene, it cuts back and forth to, on the Cabaret, like this, there's this like on the stage, they're doing this dance, and they're like doing little dainty movements with their hands, and then it's immediately juxtaposed with, you see the fists of like the brown shirts like beating up that guy. And so absolutely I can see that as inspiration for this particular scene.
It is incredibly satisfying because it's the show saying, hey guys, the bad guys don't always win. There's been a lot of times bad guys are winning, and this is one where it's like, no, he can't escape. There's no escape for this guy.
Such a fist pump moment.
The song is perfectly matched to it as well, with the words and how he can't escape, and that you've got to meet your fate, and you rock right out, no hiding place. As you see Rifa trying to, first he's trying to bargain with them when Londo's talking as a hologram, which I really like how that's
the blocking
presented.
of that is so fucking good when he like almost hits Reefer in the face and he walks through Jakar.
And the actors are reacting to it. And I think I read a bit about how that was done and shot, where they had shot all the Peter Jurasek stuff and the other actors had to do choreography to that. They had to time it out and they had to react at these certain points and had to have their eye lines right as they insert Peter Jurasek in there. And they also had sometimes where he was on the set there, but it's this thing where you don't really consider it all that much. But I also really like, again, hologram stuff is always difficult. I like
Always
that
tricky, yeah.
Londo is interacting with the environment like how he would just if he recorded a hologram thing, unlike, say, in Star Trek where they have holographic communications and you're like, what's it like on your side, though? How are you walking around the bridge like this?
No,
what's it like over there for you? This is a pre-recorded message where
he has
he's
a
not
line.
looking at Reefer when he's addressing Reefer.
Yeah.
I really liked that. The technicals of this was really
He has a
enrapturing.
line that also acknowledges that he's on Babylon 5 when he's recording it, and I
Yeah.
really liked that little touch.
It added a lot to the menace of it because Londo is killing him from a distance. I don't need to be there to kill you.
But also in time.
Oh yeah, in time. Like, I've planned this out. You have now fallen in. You're going to be dead in minutes. That's a phrase that he uses that I would have gulped down if I was Reefer.
If you are seeing this, you'll shortly be dead.
Yes, you have minutes left. It's like, oh.
So good.
What really works about the death too is you just get that monologue from Londo just telling him all the reasons why he's going to kill him, how he's going to get killed, why the Narn are going to go along with this, and just also, hey guys, he did all of these things. I'm sure that they'll want to thank you for that, Reefer. And the dramatic irony of Reefer proudly stating these horrible crimes earlier on, and now Weasley, Mr. Oh, I didn't do it, actually. He's lying. He's lying. Why would you believe him? That's not true. And begging for the guards to come back. He's acting. Do you remember your reaction, Ben, at all? Or, like, what is your general feeling when it does cut to the gospel song? Because it is just, like, it just goes, bam, now we're doing this. And there's that element of, like, what is happening? What are we doing?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a total, as said earlier, it was a fist pump moment. Like, it's just like, oh, wow, oh, they're doing that. What? Oh, that's crazy. That's fun. And then it's like, oh, we're tying these two plots together somehow. What? Oh, cool. Yeah, I mean, to put myself back to watching this for the first time, I just remember, like, it was just really thrilling. And I had no idea that was coming. Like, you assume that Reefa's days were numbered because Londo, declared war on him a couple episodes ago. But this particular way of doing it, and then the music, I just remember being like, wow, what the hell? Like, as I said at the beginning of the episode, like, this is the beginning of the podcast. Like, this is a moment that just always sticks with me as a moment of Babylon 5. Like, just one of the, like, in the same way that Delenn, showing up in the middle of the season and with all the Minbari ships behind her. Like, it's one of those top moments of the show in just how kind of audacious it is. And how, like, it just sticks with me.
It's confident. This is a show that is
very
confident enough to do this. This could fall on its face if the show wasn't as confident as it is. Rachel, what about you? What's been your overall reactions to this over the years?
I love it more and more every time.
I lost my mind when I saw it because not only was I not used to the show doing stuff like this, I mean, they change around what they like to do on Babylon 5, but by season 3...
big flare that, like, a lot of the episodes don't go for.
You became comfortable in season 3. You go, okay, we're going to have these type of stories.
Style.
We're no longer in season 1 where we have these type of stories or these type of storytelling choices anymore. We're going to do this. Okay, we've got a feel. Completely shocked me. And another thing about it was, I'm not used to these shows doing that. This is something where I think it was left for stuff like The Sopranos or later on Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, Boardwalk Empire. They would all do these very cabaret or Martin Scorsese type thing. I also thought of Goodfellas when watching this. But, there were other shows that did this. I mean, this feels like something, again, JMS is a big Twin Peaks fan. Twin Peaks would often play around with these juxtapositions of images and sounds, but it is just very rewarding. But a thing that happens to me and happens to you, and I'm curious about this for you, Ben, is I laugh. I find it very, very funny that Reefer gets killed like this. I'm just laughing throughout the entire thing.
Well,
Rick just grin on my face as this guy he runs.
And he knows, like, and I mean, in honesty, I would try to run away. But it's just that it's funny because it's like, he doesn't, he tries, every way, he tries to pull every, lever that he has to get out of this, and none of those work, and he knows that he's done, and then it's just like, all right, I guess I'll run.
Yeah, but he refuses to give up.
And the song's telling you that it's pointless. The song and the sermon is telling you that evildoers are going to get theirs, and Reefer is running in slow motion. I just laugh and laugh. I scream with laughter every time because he deserves it so much. There are characters in shows where you want them to meet their fates. You want them to get the nastiest ending possible. Then there are others where they're villainous characters where you go, Death, you're too clever to be killed. Like Mr. Bester. He's a character where I don't know if you could kill that guy in the show. That doesn't work, and they don't. But Reefer... Yeah,
presumably, like, we would have gotten an episode of Crusade with him.
Yeah, but Reefer, he's the type of character where, he needs to be stomped to death.
Death is the solution.
Death is the inevitable for this guy. He can't just keep getting away like this. He's not that clever. He's cunning, he's ruthless, but he needs to meet his, and this is a very iconic scene. I would put in my top 10 moments of Babylon 5, and it does make this episode even more memorable. I think that if he just got killed in another way, it would still be a very great episode, but this makes it a top 5 episode of season 3 for me. Oh.
Yeah, and William Forward was when he got the script, he was worried that he'd done something to piss JMS off or something, that he was being killed, and it's just like, oh man, dude, this is like, I know that you're probably also thinking like, well, shit, man, I'm out of paycheck. But I mean, this is what a way to get, like, what a way to be forever memorable to anyone that watches the show. Like, this isn't goodbye. I didn't say good luck. This is a Warren
Keffer death. This isn't a Keffer death.
Brother Theo.
No, that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, this isn't like Brother Theo, where it's just like
you're shuffled off quietly without a word.
Well, you're not killed. You're just forgotten.
Yeah,
you're not drawled. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he's in the bathroom, so we can't see him.
We got Zathras here and his brother Zathras. We loved him so much we brought him back, even though it makes no sense. But we brought him back. Yeah, it is just such a badass way to go out to. Like, the actor, I can understand that worry, because for someone like him, it's like, oh, they've liked me. They kept bringing me back, and now they're getting rid of me in a way that's really, like, really detestable and violent, but awesome. It is very, very awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, he gets more in this episode
than he ever did.
Than he ever has. And so, like, I mean, really, just the more time I spend with him, I'm just like, wow, this is just a fun villain. This is just a good performance.
This death gets away with it too as being something unique, because the show doesn't do this all the time. This is not something that it delights in often. In television, often, especially event television, like Game of Thrones or its new series, House of the Dragon, it is very much about, like, how are we going to kill this guy or girl in a very vile, gross, or spectacular, or extravagant way?
We need to one-up.
Oh, we need to burn this one alive, or the mountain's going to grab the beautiful Pedro Pascal and just beat his teeth out. And, like, that's awesome. But after a point,
Crush the skull.
After a point, you became numb to it because you've seen it all, basically.
Yeah.
And here,
it's just like, and you know that they're going to go for something brutal.
Yeah, one of the last major deaths was Kosh, and that was presented and done in a very different manner to Reefer, where that one was beautiful and operatic and noble, and Reefer's is the opposite of that, where it's operatic in a different sense. It's gospelly, but it's old. It's like it's real. Like, I'm beating you to death. I'm beating you to death.
Yeah, he's beaten to death. Kosh was torn apart, and we don't see it.
Yeah, there's a dignity to Kosh's death, while there is no dignity in Reefer's, which makes it funny.
We don't get to see Reefer's beaten corpse. We get to see those nuns laying into him, but we don't see his corpse. Like,
no, we don't need to. We see the aftermath later.
What do you think about G'Kar not taking part, and also not like just kind of coldly observing it? Maybe like a moment of mild like just a moment of, okay, well, justice is done, and then he walks away. Like, there's not, and I think part of it is that he's just like, well, this doesn't bring anyone back.
Yeah, he's come a long way. I see it also as him walking away from the older version of himself that would have been one of those Narn, delighting in it. He's like, that chapter is now closed.
It ties in very nicely to his struggles with his people going forward, where he has to learn that his journey, his redemption and revelation is not theirs. Although he's becoming this more empathetic and wise person, that isn't applied to all of the Narns. And I actually like that it's like, guys, this is your treat because you guys need this. I don't need it anymore. But he's not robbing them of that because...
Or judging them for
it either.
Like, this isn't for me.
They deserve to kill this guy. He deserves to get killed by them.
You are personally responsible for the death of 5 or 6 million Narns. And I think they would like to thank you, personally, for your efforts.
You can't believe him. He's lying.
Londo holding the data crystal and it's smudged with blood on it.
Mm-hmm.
I've never noticed that until this watch.
I didn't notice it until you just mentioned it. And I was like, because I just thought like, I just hadn't noticed it, and when you mentioned it, I was like, "Of course, it's blood." Duh.
Yeah, that's why it's red now. I just was like, "Oh yeah, he had a red data crystal, I guess," because the Centauri have different color ones. But then it was like, "Oh no!" And then you see it in different shots, and it is like
because the
bloody,
tip's clean.
Yeah, like where he's holding it is cleaner, but it's not pure red, and it's kind of smudged. It's like, oh. How nice! how lovely! What a nice detail. But there's this scene at the end with these two where Londo's giving the explanation of what happened. He's laying the groundwork to discredit House Reefer, and that Lord Reefer was trying to bargain with the Narns.
Play both sides
against the middle. And he learned the hard way that you can't bargain with the Narns.
Which is what he did.
Which is what Londo did, yeah. He bargained with the Narns.
Londo bargained with the Narns and it paid off.
Yeah, Londo's, you know what, I take it back. Londo's awesome. I like that guy. He's a real fun guy. I love that. I didn't even think about that. Great point. Awesome. He's just saying, basically, he's just lying to the guy's face. Yeah. I mean, he's already doing that, but just that little extra salt in the wound to Reefer's corpse. Fucking love him. You know what, Londo? You're a good guy. I respect you a whole bunch more now. You've gone up my rankings. But what do you think, Rachel? Do you think Verini believes him?
I think he has no reason to say that he doesn't. I don't know if he does or he doesn't really believe, but the matter is resolved. So it's like, well, it can go away now. I don't need to care about this. He has no reason to be invested in whether Londo is telling the truth or not.
Right. What do you think, Ben?
I agree with Rachel, but I am a little bit more on the, because I've like really paid attention to his face, and like when Londo's delivering the news, and there's just this expression on his face that suggests to me, this is bullshit, but you know what? I wanted, as Rachel just said, I wanted this resolved, so this solves the problem. Like,
Yeah. I don't really buy this, but okay.
Yeah, like I don't really give a shit as long as you two aren't fighting. So now he's dead, so you're not fighting.
Yep.
I read it that he knows, and that he was amused by it initially.
He's aware enough of the political game.
He was amused by it initially, but there were moments within Londo's lies where he was like, can we pull up on that for a second? Like, I find it a bit hard to believe that Reefer was a traitor. Almost a little bit of the, can we make sure to smooth over this story a little bit here? But there was this moment of his acting. And again, this is a one-time wonder. Many people wouldn't even go this deep into him, but we all got something. When Londo brings up his name, like, oh, and Reefer was going to even kill you, there's that look in his eyes where it's like, moment. Oh, are you saying you're going to kill me? Because that's where he changes. Yeah. That's where it's like, oh. And whether it's because he believes,
you're pulling that.
Or whether it's because he actually believes what Londo's saying and he hadn't considered Reefer that treacherous. But I like to look at it as the Londo is quietly in this moment saying, like, I killed this guy. And what makes you any better?
Yep.
Mister, I've just killed someone from a distance. And there's that element. It reminds me of Breaking Bad, actually, where Walter White could kill like 50 guys in 17 different prisons within under 2 minutes, and everybody knows it, and they're scared of him, so they just obey him. That's kind of how I got the read. Like, I got the read that he was amused at first, then he was like, can we smooth out the ruffles here a bit? And then, oh, you're mentioning me now. Well, let's just agree that this is how the narrative went here, okay? But let's try not to play this game again. Because then he's really disgusted by the data crystal after that information too, and he puts in the handkerchief and he squeezes it with this. The actor does a really great job. That's what we're saying here. He does a marvelous job here. Let's get into our Actors Spotlight, the section of the show where we spotlight an actor or actress that appeared in an episode, whether they're big or small, one-time wonder, recurring, or main. We talk about things we've seen them in, what we thought of him here, any pieces of trivia. We're talking about William Forward, Lord Reefer. We've talked about him a lot during this episode, and if you've listened to previous episodes of the podcast, he has been one of my favorite actors that we've been looking at throughout the show. I have adored him very much. I love the dedication he brought to Lord Reefer. He made this guy who should have been a one and done into something more. He is one of the few actors that really knows how to use the wig, like the big hair, to emphasize certain points. He really leans into the physicality. He has this posture to him where it's not just he's holding his chin up high, but it's almost like he's got his pelvis forward and he's got like this real kind of curvature to the way he walks, where there's just
a whole body thing.
He's not a guy who walks.
It's a whole body performance.
He's not a guy who walks. He slinks. That's how I would describe his performance. And that level of effort from the drop is very much appreciated. And he is one of the only actors to do the accent. He's the only other actor to really do the absurd accent. And although it isn't as bombastic and as layered as Peter Jurassic,
it's still grounded in his natural voice.
He owns that accent that he's playing with. Like, he has made it his and made a character through that voice, where, Ben, I know in your show all the time you love to do your Reefer impression where it's just like, blah, blah, I'm a vampire, blah, because the voice is a huge factor to this performance. But really, he has the physicality and just, he brings that energy of yeah, I'm a piece of shit guy. I'm a bad boy, but I don't care. I'm going to be the number one guy. I'm going to be immortal. I'm going to be infamous. Reefer, I miss him already. I know we're going to get some fun, evil Centauri action soon with the Emperor, but this type of villainy, this type of despicableness is one that I haven't appreciated as strongly in the past, but man, I was just drawn to him every single episode he came in. There was always a little smile on my face when I saw William Forward's name pop up in the credits. I'm like, yay, we're going to get my boy Reefer. Just constantly little claps when he came on, being like, yay, Reefer, he's here. I love this guy. He's such a little weasel of a man. What about you, Rachel? You've been a big fan of Reefer. What's been drawing you in on this watch?
I love the way he uses his eye line. I think that's something that I've noticed on this. The way that he will look and not look at somebody, like it's just a very specific power play that he does.
He also does a lot of like chin and throat acting where he like tucks his chin into his throat when he's being extra petulant. Oh, such wheezy. You're right, the eyeline thing. I've been noticing that too in the last couple of episodes. He's very good at being on the TV screen. Mm-hmm. He only did it a couple of times when he's on the TV screen and he's got the eyeline. He's being very much like, I'm better than you. Mm-hmm. What about you, Ben? How have you been going with Reefer on your watch through?
Oh, I mean, yeah, it's hard to go last on this because I agree with everything. He's just great. It's a very fun performance, and it's a fun, like, I think villains, like a good villain is a good role to play. It's a fun role to play. We talked earlier about Reverend Dexter getting, like, he's this one episode actor that gets this lovely moment, and like we William Forward as Reefa just gets more and more opportunities, and then in this episode especially, like, he gets more screen time than he ever does. He gets that wonderful scene where he's recreating the halls of Centauri Prime on Narn. Like, he gets to have so many solo scenes where he's not with any of the stars of the show. He's the star. He's the person we know. And he anchors it. He's able to run it. And he's not like, it's not like Michael York, who was given opportunities like that, or
this is a smaller actor. He doesn't have the largest body of work, and yet they trust him as they do with so many of these seemingly one and done actors where their career made up of like 1 or 2 episode guest spots and other things, and they trust them and they believe in them and they nurture them to be able to take over a whole scene. I know I keep bringing it up for some reason, but Breaking Bad's another example where I remember Bill Burr was talking about how flabbergasted he was. There was a whole scene where the first 2 minutes, him, Bob Odenkirk, and the guy who plays Huel running Breaking Bad. That's the scene. It's just them, and it's like 3 stand-up comedians are in charge of the best dramatic show on television right now. And you just have William Ford, who will go over his career. But another factor I want to bring in was how he was upset, or like wasn't too, like he was a bit like bummed that his character got killed. And I can understand why, because it's so much fun. We know that this crew, like this production, seemed like a pretty fun place to work. Like all of the stories we ever hear from people who worked on Babylon 5, yes, they had if you're in the makeup, it's going to be a bit of a pain in the ass, but most of the time you have lots of great stories about like, oh yeah, John C. Flynn III was really great to work with, or this director, or I loved working with these guys. They're always joking around, yet they knew their lines and they knew their characters. And so for an actor like him, where this is the most work he ever got on a TV show. Like, everything else is like 2 episodes of a show,
If
maybe
that.
3.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
This is the one where he had at least 6. So you get comfortable and you like working with the people. And it's not only just you get a regular role. Well, that would be very important too. He got a character to develop instead of just being a guy who comes in to say something and then leaves. This is a character who got to grow in front of our eyes. And as an actor, that is just so... That's what you want.
The glory for capturing him will go to my house, and you, Godrigo, will be compensated very well for your trouble.
Once we have this Narn, what shall we do with him?
Bring him back to Centauri Prime. In chains. As a gift for Emperor Cartagia. Along with a silver plate, upon which I will have the head of Londo Mollari.
So he's best known for B5, Space Above and Beyond, Beverly Hills 90210, and DOA.
Yes, DOA, yes.
Now IMDb says he's best known for Beverly Hills 90210, but I've now gone and watched his scenes in them. He's not best known for those.
No.
If you want me to go ahead, or I could sit on it as we go through his career. I've
seen Space Above and Beyond. Trust me, I know it's also not what he's best known for.
It is
we'll get there.
It's very much, we have 4 slots that we need to fill.
Yeah. I saw that on IMDb and I was like, oh.
And he only has 36 credits.
I wonder if he was a state, like, there doesn't seem, I don't know, like, did you find like a bio or something?
I imagine he's a stage actor. I looked up his wife, who's an actress as well. She has roughly the same amount of TV and film, but I looked her up because she's easier to find on the internet. William Forward is a guy where IMDb is the best you're going to get information-wise, and you just do more legwork. I don't know what he's up to currently, but his wife is very much involved in stage and theater, and even does some guest work video spots on people's YouTube channels when they need somebody to act out a thing. I saw that his wife was very much involved in a Jewish theater company, so I wouldn't find it unbelievable that he probably has a thriving, or at least has been involved in stage, but it's hard to find that stuff on the internet because, well, that's theater, baby. It exists and they're there now for a lot of it.
Yeah, unless it's Broadway or off-Broadway.
Or highly publicized, or...
Yeah, you don't get much.
Especially if you're doing it in the era of, like, the 90s where you didn't have, you're not posting that on the internet. You're like, I'm in this play, everyone should go see it. Especially for someone of this caliber, I would imagine. But keep going through his credentials, Rachel.
I want to hear about the 90210.
Oh, yes. Tell us about it, Ben. So you're a big 90210 fan. You were there when it launched. You're an American, so obviously you're an expert.
Yeah. I never watched the show before today.
What?
No. I never had seen it before, but it is on, the entire run of it is on Paramount, which I subscribe to because that's what Star Trek's on.
I'm so sorry.
And so I'm like, all right, well, there are 3 William Forward episodes. I'll take a look at the first one. And I watched the beginning of it, of the episode, and I'm like, oh man, look at all these 90s styles. That's fun. But then I don't notice his name as a guest actor, like, or as like also starring or something. Like, his name doesn't show up in the beginning. Yeah, and I'm like, okay,
he's not in those opening credits.
And so I'm like, I'm kind of scrubbing the time. And I'm like, all right, where is he? And then, like, in that first episode, his character shows up for one scene and has like three or 4 lines. He plays a surprise boyfriend to a girl that I guess the main character thought was into him. And then, which was pretty funny.
Just surprise
but
boyfriend.
That's it. And then he comes back 5 seasons later as a completely different character who isn't also starring or guest starring. And he has one scene in one episode, and then he comes back 2 episodes later, and it's and and he does get an also starring, but it's that he gets like half a line more, and maybe his agent managed to argue for him. But it's just like, I see it and I'm like, oh, he's just a guy with a pulse.
Yeah.
And that's sad because we
see his potential.
We on our Patreon, we talk about Space Above and Beyond, and I was excited because I knew he was going to be in an episode. They even credit him in the episode. We watched the episode, and I quickly realized who he was in it. But Rachel, you finished it going, where was Lord Reefer?
Yeah.
And he was literally the guy. This one was set on a different spaceship with a different like crew manning it, as our main crew had to take their orders, and he was just the guy literally at the back of the bridge, no lines, and the closest shot we got of him was of his shoulder from behind, and you saw like the outline of his face. Everything else is far away, mostly out of focus. I don't even think he had a line. And I was so gutted because he was doing that at the same time as Babylon 5. So he was doing 2 science fiction shows at the same time, one of which gave him a character and lines of dialogue, and the other one was just, you are a guy.
Yeah.
Sit there and push buttons. And it was deeply frustrating because I was expecting him to be something of note because I've seen him play a certain character. You have certain expectations, certain wants, and he has a certain look to him. I was like, oh, Space Above and Beyond, I know exactly what he could play. Oh, this is the pitch. Oh, yeah, you can meet this. No.
Yeah. No.
Very sad by that.
I have 4 things that I know him from.
Of course you do.
One of them is a movie that I haven't seen, but I know of. And when I saw the poster, I was just like, I feel like I almost rented this a number of times at the DVD store and went, nah, I'm going to get something else. And it's called Beautiful.
I saw this. Yes, beautiful.
With Minnie Driver.
I love Minnie Driver.
Oh,
Do you know who directed this movie?
Was it Minnie Driver again?
No.
No. Who?
Sally Field.
Sally Field?
The Sally Field.
I love Sally. Oh,
and it's written by the same writer as Meet the Robinsons.
What?
Okay.
This is... Oh, wow. Okay.
And he's just in it as orthodontist.
I was going to say, I looked at his career, and a lot of times he plays, I guess, stuffy people like a judge or a doctor or a lawyer or an academic or something like that. Just these people who you would imagine... Here's how I describe it. He plays roles where you can imagine they put a set of glasses on his face.
Yeah.
Even if they don't, you know that it's a character that would wear glasses.
Cast for the particular, like certainly on 90210, he's cast not for his performance, but because that he's like just what he looks like, which is like a skinny, balding, middle-aged man that probably like you could probably knock him over with a feather.
You showed me a picture of him in 90210, and I just wrote, he has such a great sad sack face, which is not something, which is not what I associate Reefer with having at all, by the way.
Well, he must have been so happy to get, like, which is why he was so, like, because I thought about this watching him in these tiny little cameos on 90210. Like, I was like, oh, the reason he didn't want to leave Babylon 5 is because he's never, like, I mean...
He's never had this opportunity.
We say never. We haven't seen all of his... Maybe there is a TV show where he had an incredible guest turn.
Yeah, but he never got to have a recurring role in the way that he did on Babylon 5. And those are the ones that you want a gun for a lot. Not always. We've had so many spotlight actors where they've been happy to live in the one-and-done world with no desire to be more, but I get the feeling that this is a guy who wants more, who wanted more, and it's sad. Now, Rachel, I already know this, so I'm not going to pretend like I'm guessing this. He was in Gilmore Girls, wasn't he?
I was building up to Gilmore Girls.
Okay.
The one that I wanted to bring up next was Seventh Heaven.
You are a Seventh Heaven head.
I have watched more of Seventh Heaven than I think I care to admit myself.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, but he's in an early season episode called Brave New World, I
Oh,
believe.
like the book?
Yeah. And I'm like, this is weird. But this is the synopsis. So he's Mr. Somebody, assumably a teacher at the school. And the synopsis for this episode is the school bully experiences a severe lapse in judgment when he tries to sexually harass Mary.
No! Yeah, he...
But what if he played the school bully?
He has a backward cap on.
Hello. Oh.
he has the Reaper voice. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
He was in X-Files, of course, in an episode called Millennium, which was the series finale for the cancelled television series Millennium. And, well, if you want to see Lance Henriksen in an episode of X-Files, you can watch that one. But he was just a guy, a funeral director. He was in Buffy the Vampire Slayer as well as just a doctor. Doesn't even get doctor such and such. Just a doctor, man. Just a guy. So he did these little genre shows. He never got to do Star Trek, which is unfortunate. I would have loved to have
too
seen
bad.
him.
He would have been fun.
Oh, he would have been a great Romulan,
Sorry,
wouldn't he?
I just want to clarify because I don't think you maybe realize this. So that episode of Seventh Heaven is about somebody sexually harassing an underage Jessica Biel.
Oh, no, not Jessica Biel. No. I don't know if I can recover from that.
I have a bit of fun trivia about his career, something I found about the last show. Like his last listed performance, which was on a TV show that ran from 2000 to 2003. Did either of you see this? There's something interesting about this show.
I haven't looked. Tell me.
Okay. So he has 3 appearances on this like TV show, Strong Medicine. And I was like, I've never ever heard of this show. I'm curious because this is the last thing he was ever in. And I click on it in IMDb. And who is one of the stars?
I see it. I see it. I look.
It's handsome old Corwin.
Corwin.
It's Joshua Cox.
It's what he went on to after Babylon 5.
He got a bigger part.
He's like one of the lead guys.
Yeah,
Corwin.
he's one of the stars of Strong Medicine.
Corwin is
probably
one of the lead stars,
like a
and
handsome
Reefer was
doctor
there
or something.
too. Now, Rachel, please regale us. Everyone sit down. Roast a marshmallow.
In Buffy.
Roast a marshmallow around the campfire. Rachel's going to tell us about the time he was on Gilmore Girls. Now, was he in an episode with Michael York?
No.
Was he in an
that
episode
would've
with
been
Jane
fun.
Carr?
No.
Was he in an
that
episode?
also
If I
would've
keep
been
listing
fun.
every actor that we've had on Babylon 5 that was in Gilmore Girls, will it eventually be right? Was any of the lead actors from Babylon 5 in Gilmore Girls? Like was Peter Jurasik ever in Gilmore Girls? Like I know he was in One Tree Hill, but like was Bruce ever on Gilmore Girls as one of Lorelai's suitors? Like, gosh, geez, Lorelai, I just want to hold your hand.
Let me hold your hand.
She loves you, you know. I saw it in her face at dinner every time she looked at you.
I don't want to talk about this anymore.
Of course.
So he's in a, again, relatively early episode. I think it's season 3.
Okay, so Rory's still at school?
Yeah, Rory's still at school. Her grandfather convinces her to take a trip to Yale. And at this stage, Lorelai and Rory are both set on Rory going to Harvard. So everything is Harvard.
Harvard, yes.
But of course, the grandfather's a Yale man.
No.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're in Connecticut. She should go to Yale. She should not go to. I've never watched Gilmore Girls, but I am from Connecticut. So I would never. I mean, I didn't go to school and I didn't go to college in Connecticut, but I certainly wouldn't leave to go to Massachusetts. Ugh, awesome, terrible.
Hear that, everyone? For you Americans out there, you got a lot out of that.
Well,
I'm just sitting here going, sure, man, sure, whatever that
a
means.
good chunk of this episode, like, they're walking around being like, isn't this campus great? It has, like, this world-class gallery.
There you are. And
art gallery, and the grandparents are reminiscing about their courtship and how the grandmother stole him away from a woman that he was engaged to.
No! Was William Ford the one who got them together? I'd love that. I'd love if you just said right now, William Ford set them up on a date.
Like a bus driver that just pulls open the door and goes like, come on in, Lorelai. Okay, no more lines.
No. He's the guy that when they have a flashback, he's their young, sexy greaser friend with a leather jacket and like a
He is an
hairdo.
old friend of Richard's.
Okay.
And an administration officer. And who Richard ambushes Rory with a meeting with William Ford.
So he ambushes young women, huh? That's his character in a few things.
But he doesn't know that it's an ambush.
Oh, well.
I wish I was ambushed
my old
by
friend
William
asked me to have a
Forward. What a
chat to
delight.
his granddaughter.
Was he a surprise boyfriend?
He was a surprise meeting.
There you are.
Not a boyfriend.
Was he funny, though? That's the thing. It seems like he does a lot of comedy stuff, which is, again, I don't associate Reefer being actually funny. I find him very amusing. But...
Yeah,
I bet villain acting is a little bit of the same muscles. I think you could pull some good punchline deliveries.
Well, that's how we have Peter Jurasik, right?
Yeah.
He's a comedy guy. He was known for being the comedic, weird little criminal man on Hill Street Blues, and then we have him in B5 where he uses a lot of those comedic skills and muscles to be Londo.
No, he's not funny in this though. He's just vaguely authoritarian old man. He's just kind of happy to be there. He's just I'll make sure to check out that book that you recommended. She's like, don't get scared off by the Oprah sticker on the cover.
Oof, oof, oof.
It was a pleasure to meet you. I'll read that book you recommended.
And don't be fooled by the Oprah seal on the cover. It's actually very good.
Well, how did it go? I see that everyone is smiling.
Richard, your granddaughter is everything you said and more. You should be very proud.
I am very proud.
It was nice meeting you.
Same here.
I'll see you at dinner later, Richard.
Thanks, Harrison.
I have never heard what William Forward's views on Babylon 5 are after he was done. I've never seen him at I've never seen any mentions of him at conventions. I've watched footage of the conventions many times, and rarely, if ever, is he mentioned, let alone referenced or talked about. I want to know what William Forward's relationship with this series is. Is there anyone who ever just goes, hey, you're Reefer? Because I would love to talk to William Forward. Out of all these actors, I'd love to talk to him and Naroon. Those are the two guys I'd love to know more about their small time on this series. I rate And the Rock Cried Out No Hiding Place on a scale of Yum being bad and Yum Yum being good. I give it a Yum Yum, of course.
Yum yum.
Yum yum.
Yum yum.
Ben, there's a lot of pressure on you now. You have to decide between Yum or Yum Yum. What is your decision, mister?
Oh, man. Wow. I'm sweating. Yum? Yum.
Two yums. Wow, you really hated it.
I hesitated, but in the end, I had to follow my heart.
Yum yum.
I want to know what you and I, Rachel, will be talking about and watching next time on Babylon 5.
And you will hear that from Ben.
Ben, you have the DVD description in front of you. What does it say for the next episode of Babylon 5?
On the next Babylon 5.
Episode 21. Shadow Dancing. A time of confrontations. Franklin confronts his personal nemesis and finds he is that foe. Plus, Sheridan war vessels battle the massive Shadow Armada.
Plus, not a meanwhile, a plus.
It's an addition. It's an addition to the Sheridan. The Sheridan stuff is an addition to the Franklin. So, Ben, where can people find you and your podcast?
People can listen to our podcast, the last best Babylon 5 podcast on all of your podcast services. You can follow us on Instagram at LastBestB5 and also on Twitter
Maybe.
That same last best B5.
Maybe if it's still there by the time we upload this.
Yeah, like by the time this is out.
Isn't that really funny? When I first started this podcast, there was no doubt in my mind that by the time I finished it, I wouldn't have to worry about changing any of the social medias that we recommend at the end of this. I was like, oh, well, those will be around.
Yeah, like it's the solid triad.
Like, yeah, they'll be around. Sure. And now I'm worried that, for fuck's sake, TikTok's going to be the one that lasts. Oh, no. But that is true. We are also in all of those social media platforms. We are on all of them under YumYumPod or YumYumPodcast. We post on there regularly, interact with people on there. So if you want to talk to us, you can ping us on whatever of the social medias you use, and we'll respond. Even if it's a like. Even if I give you a little love heart that says, I agree with that statement. You did good today. And then you can email us your thoughts, questions, queries, concerns, and whatever else you'd like to over at yumyumpod@gmail.com. Isn't that right, Rachel?
Yes.
And we have a Patreon where we talk about numerous things, the X-Men movies, the Star Trek movies. We've talked about Strange New Worlds over there. We've talked about Season 2 of Star Trek Picard.
We haven't talked about Gilmore Girls or Buffy
We haven't talked
yet.
about Gilmore Girls or Buffy yet, but rest assured, one day, maybe. We have a bonus series where we're talking about space above and beyond. You can come over there, YumYumPodcast on Patreon. All of this helped you. I helped you guys. I held your hand because I put all of this in the description of the episode. So it's your fault if you can't find it, okay? And it's your fault if you haven't rated and reviewed the podcast. You've had the opportunities, and if you haven't done it, you've let me down. You let Rachel down. Ben, he's indifferent. It's not his podcast, but I feel like he's a little bit down. A little bit down.
Mr. Listener, I gave you all the clues.
No, guys, it's time for me to leave because we've only filmed like a certain amount of the episode and we've just got to release it anyway, like the snowman. Jakar was here. He could have said good
Yum
eating.
yum.
I was going to say he could have said good eating to you and yum yum as a farewell kiss to Reefer. Hey, those two have never interacted before, huh? Reefer and Jakar. They've never had to have scenes together until this one, and what an interaction it was, where Jakar doesn't even need to say anything to let the hatred be known. But good eating to you, Rachel.
Good eating to you, Ryan.
And good eating to you, Benjamin.
Good eating, Wanderers.
You fuck.